It's really nice that I can be up here so very relaxed, because I'm not promoting a business, I'm not asking you to buy my services. I'm just going to stand up here and tell you, well, a little bit of a story of something that happened to me. And what's peculiar about this is that the whole topic is about vitality, and this evening I'm going to start off with not talking about vitality. Because I find sometimes in life, let's start that. Sometimes in life, we get so wrapped up in doing what we do and getting on with our lives that very often you don't actually have an idea of what vitality is. I don't know how many of you looked at this topic and kind of went, oh, so what is vitality? And what is vitality to you? And I can be really straight up forward and honest and tell you that for the most part of my life, I never thought about it for a second, ever. I got up, I drank my coffee, ran to the gym, worked out like a crazy person, spent 14 hours at work, went back to the gym, drank some more coffee, and then partied and drank a whole lot of alcohol. And you know what? I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of fun. It was really, really great. So this isn't kind of a story about woe, or I'm going to tell you a really terrible thing, but I want you to have a look at how this relates to vitality. So very often in life, we don't value what we have until we lose it. So generally, people find that with relationships, or perhaps a job. So I'm sure at some stage in your life, you had something, and then you lost it, and then you only then realized how important it was to you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something to help me out now. I want you, for the next 6 minutes that I hope we have there, is I want you to sit exactly as still as you are now. So you have 2 seconds to decide how still you want to sit. So sit upright or slouch down, cross your knees, or fold your hands, whatever you like. But the big deal is that for the next 6 minutes, I want you to not move at all. You can blink, and I do want you to breathe and swallow. But apart from that, please don't move. So this is really a big deal to me, because I had a journey of freeze. I call it freeze. Some people call it illness. I call it freeze. In 2003, on my 30th birthday, my body became completely paralyzed. At that stage, I had moved to Singapore. I'd worked in London, and my husband got moved to Singapore. And within 6 weeks of moving there, I couldn't move my feet anymore, and then I couldn't move my knees anymore. So just go with me as I'm doing this. And I couldn't move my hips anymore, and then I couldn't move my middle part anymore. And then eventually I lay in bed for pretty much 4 years. And for 6 years of my life, I couldn't move freely. Basically, what had happened is that over the course of like 6 weeks, I'd gone to doctors, and they'd said that perhaps it could have been a virus, or perhaps I could have developed an autoimmune disorder. But at the end of the day, they still had to run a lot more tests. By the way, you're all looking very cool, sitting superbly still. It's very funny, I hadn't anticipated that. So sit nice and still, because for every minute that passes was a year of my life that I couldn't move. So what do you do when you get really, really sick? You think, oh, this is 2000 and something, it's all going to be okay, I'm just going to go see a doctor. And they'll know, because that's what doctors do, right? They're really, really clever in that department, and you go to them and they tell you that you have X, and then you take kind of a couple of pills, or they put you in a machine, and then everything goes right. And so I set out to find my solution, and I consulted pretty much everybody on the planet. I went to see doctors and all sorts of specialists. They stuck tubes in me and into my spine and down my throat, and checked every organ that I had. I saw oncologists, neurologists, pathologists. Most of the time I had to Wikipedia most of them and look what they actually did, because I had no idea. Then my kind of journey took into the more bizarre realm. I saw all sorts of interesting people that wore very interesting outfits and usually had very interesting offices. Some of them told me that I needed to make sure my legs went over my ears, others told me to drink my urine. By the way, it tastes better mixed with apple juice. And some people looked at my colours, wherever they were, and others even more bizarrely told me they had to exercise demons out of me. And that's why I said at the end, one very patient faith healer, because I had hiccups and the giggles through the entire exorcism and it didn't quite work. The most interesting thing about all of them, each one of them that I saw and spent the equivalent of the deposit for a small house for, said that they didn't have a clue. That they had absolutely no idea what was wrong with me. So even though I often pitched up in wheelchairs and on crutches, and I often passed out because the pain was so incredibly bad, they said they couldn't find anything wrong with me, and therefore all of this, of course, must be in my mind. Okay? I don't know if anybody's ever said that to you, but when somebody says to you, oh, you're completely screwed up and definitely it's all in your head, you kind of go a bit schizoid. You gently throw things at people and kind of want to kill them, actually. I felt really lost. I felt really angry. I felt really outraged and disappointed and really mostly let down and abandoned. By the way, are you all still sitting still? I can see a lot of heads moving. We're only like in year 3 of my freeze. So, you can see how something like this would definitely just make you go downhill very, very fast, right? So I felt really empty and pretty much dead, and I thought I'd reached the end. But here's the interesting bit. What looked like a journey of loss and desperation and exhaustion and pain and fear was also, for me, a profound turning point. Now I've got you interested. Dun, dun, dun. Next thing, cool things are going to happen. Actually, if I'm really honest, it looked more like this. Now I know it's a turning point. Before, it looked like hell. It felt like my life was a shipwreck, and I really had no idea where I was going. But sometimes you need to be absolutely deathly quietly still, like you are now, so that you can hear yourself speak. And for the first time, when I completely sat and lay still, and you probably don't need as long as me, I took 4 years, that was the very first time that I heard my soul speak. And when I said to it, I have nothing to live for, the voice said, really? And I said, who's this? And the voice said, are you sure you have nothing to live for? Because you're still here, aren't you? So who are you? And I started thinking, well, I am... And then I just went blank. Because I realized that without my business card, and my suit, and my car, and my career, I wasn't actually anybody. And I couldn't remember if there was ever somebody before, because all I'd ever thought of myself was as banker or wife or friend of somebody. But when all those things disappeared, I didn't actually know who that I am was. I realized that I'd lived most of my life according to what other people expected from me. And my list of what I'd filled my life with was full of have to, should, and must. And there was very little of what I wanted to. I actually didn't know what it was. Along the way of life, I'd taken on so many other people's blueprints that I just didn't know who pure me was anymore. One of the things that was a really big deal in my life, when I kind of looked at how I got there, was I decided that all of this had happened to me, and everything would have been different if only my parents had loved me. And the voice said to me, is that the story you're sticking with? Are you sure it's true? And I kind of went a bit mad at it, and I said, what do you mean? It's not a story, it's the truth. They didn't love me, and this is why this all happened. And the voice said to me, how did you know that your parents didn't love you? And I said, well, it felt like they didn't. And then I realized that my thoughts are not the truth, actually. They're just my version of what happened. And there's a very valid bigger picture going on. And when you have a lot of time to lie still, you actually realize that that picture is vast. My parents did in fact love me. They just didn't love me in the way that I wanted to. Hear it and feel it and receive it. But definitely it wasn't all bad. I also thought that right now everything is going wrong. And the voice said, really? How do you know? And I said, well, I'm in pain and I don't know if I'm dying and everything is shit, really, sorry. And the boy said, what if something is going perfectly right here and you're just unable to see it? And I said, everything seems wrong. And the boy said, that's because you haven't looked what's going right. I couldn't stop thinking about who I was and my thoughts, that they were not the truth. And that when everything was wrong, I had to look. And that maybe if everything felt pointless, something was going very, very, very right. And as I started to think about these things, my body started to heal. And as I thought more and more and more and became clear on who I was and who I really was at the core of my truth, I became more vital than ever before. And today, the question is obviously, what you're thinking is, am I cured? And my answer is always, I absolutely hope not, because my body is my compass to my true north, who I really am. And I hope that every single time, like the last time, when I get off that path, it reminds me to come back to who I really am. And so sometimes the perfect storm in your life is also the way home back to you. So my question to you is, who are you and what is your true north? Thank you.